success, prosperity, and salvation. We pray, Lord, that you will pour out a double portion of your Spirit again this morning. Bless us as we go through the subjects. Thank you for the Bible study that has passed. We pray that these lessons will have an effect in our lives and in the way we live. And we pray that you will teach us now as your servant takes this session. Pray that you will guide and give her an instructed tongue. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, yesterday, a lot of you will be so happy that you came early in the morning. You will confirm to me. We started a discussion on principles of stewardship, and I know you can remember we listed at least 2, and there's one we left for today. And we feel that this subject is so serious and it's so personal that maybe you want to take some notes and it might generate certain follow-ups. Just be keen to take questions. We are going to have a question and answer at the end. So we're going to start the first section on what we call not just the health as a discussion or as a program of the church, but health systems. And I just want to invite Hani to take us through this segment. I would like you to listen intently and write any questions. Maybe we can take questions at the very, very end. If it will be needful, we can take questions at the end of her first presentation. Welcome, and Makinika.
Good morning, everyone. Did we all have a good night? All right. This morning we are going to have a brief discussion that we began yesterday on what are the principles of health stewardship. We looked at 2 issues yesterday. That was simplicity and selectivity. And today we are going to look at 7 issues under health systems, which is the 3rd principle of health stewardship. Now, every good outcome in health is dependent on a system. And if everyone is aware about how health systems operate, then you stand the chance of getting better health and also your family getting better health outcomes. Now, health systems consist of 7 things that we are going to discuss this morning. And feel free to ask questions at the end. You can write them down or you can ask as a plenary or any other question related to health. The first thing about health systems is every health system requires leadership. And we learn this right from the Bible. When God established the priesthood system, he also established... All right, I think that will really distract me. Just set it and then... Is it set? Just reduce the feedback, and then I think I'll be able to continue after. Okay. So when God established the priesthood system, one of the things that he gave the priests to do was a healthcare system. You notice Jesus healing the lepers, and after healing the leper, where does he send them to go and present themselves? To the priest. And why was that so? Health is so closely related to the priesthood or to the gospel that you can't separate these 2. Anyone who is in the office of a priest must have the office of a doctor or of a physician in addition to their priesthood duties, okay? And in our homes, who do All right, I think we can leave it where it was. Just keep it there and don't tamper with it, please. All right. Some of us are really distracted by sound and would prefer that it is maintained at a certain level, okay? So, part of the office of the priesthood requires that you know what applies to health. Because if you're not in perfect health, then there is no way you are going to understand the concepts that come from heaven. That's why, as part of the priest's duty, they were to help in maintaining the health of the Israelites, okay? Same thing applies to our home. If the husband is the priest of the home, what do you also expect him to do? Based on that principle. If he's the priest, then he's also who else? He's also who? The doctor or the physician, isn't it? Yeah? So the office of being a husband or the office of a home will require that there is leadership when it comes to health. And it's not just the husband, because leadership does not begin with someone else. Leadership begins with you leading yourself. Are you able to lead yourself to make correct mental choices, correct physical choices? In fact, when you study public health and health systems, you'll find that this subject is titled leadership, management, and governance. And those three things are different, yeah? That you're able to lead yourself, you are able to manage resources, you are able to govern your house very well, okay? And leadership requires that first your mental state is okay. Are you able to make decisions mentally that keep you safe in terms of your healthcare? Today, the biggest cause of disease is mental stress that is experienced at home. I remember once attending to a certain patient, and this patient had a lot of syndromes. She was quite young. Her heart was failing. She had pressure. She had a lot of issues. And so I decided to spend a little longer to find out what could be causing this young girl so much stress, yet in her family history, nobody has ever had hypertension, nobody has had all the things she was presenting with. She says, I have been married for a period of time, and my husband drinks a lot. He comes home very late. He quarrels all the time, but I still have to stay awake. Sometimes I have to go and save him from police roadblocks. And the stress that has come with that over time has now caused her to be so sick that she was almost dying. Now, many of us are not able to create boundaries or healthy boundaries in our homes to prevent us from being mentally affected by the stresses around our homes and by the stresses around our jobs. Some people cling to jobs. This job is stressing you. Your boss is also stressing you. But you're in it, you're not able to make a choice that, pali mefika, I need to resign, I need to quit, I need to find another job, isn't it? You've also seen women and men staying in abusive marriages, but they're not able to lead themselves out of the abuse. You stay there because you'll hear some women telling other women, let's stay there because of the children, isn't it? Or, sasa uko na watoto wanne, utaenda wapi? Or you've already stayed, you've already built your home, where should you go? Leading yourself. Okay. Leading yourself out of. All right. Every person should be able to lead themselves out of things that are potentially going to affect their health and their life. And I've told you the first place where we get affected is in terms of our mental health, and the place where we get a lot of mental stress is in our homes, yeah? And if you're not able to set healthy boundaries to state this is the far you can go or this is how much I can take, most people develop physical symptoms or something that we call somatization because there's no proper leadership. And when it comes to physical health, we also need to identify who is stronger in the home when it comes to leading in certain things. For example, when it comes to exercise, my husband is a stronger leader. He will wake up, he'll go for exercise more consistently than I will want to exercise. But when it comes to food, I am very good at the kitchen. I'll prepare consistent, healthy meals, and when it comes to a table, I'm able to make decisions more consistently on which food is healthy. So when it comes to, food and exercise, we know who is the leader, isn't it? So he takes leadership when it comes to exercise, but when it comes to food, I will most definitely take leadership because we've identified strengths in that area. All right? So identify in your home what are your strengths when it comes to health. You'll find someone is good at exercise, someone is good at cooking, someone is good at creating mental boundaries and making decisions, which is important for protecting your health. The second thing when it comes to health systems is about human resource. And I like saying everyone in the home is a healthcare worker. From your domestic manager, your house helps if you wish, to your children, everyone in that home should and must understand that they are healthcare workers, essential workers in that sense. Yeah? A lot of the times we don't think of our domestic managers as people who can determine whether you live or die. I know of children who have died at home because of choking, and the reason is they were left with a domestic worker. The domestic worker did not receive any training on how to deal with a choking child, isn't it? Or any first aid on how to deal with a child who has fainted. And that's why every mother who has a house help must take their house help through some form of training for their own good, because this house help can determine whether your child lives or dies. And we are willing to do this. Maybe if we get another chance to come to Migori Central, we can have a training for a lot of your domestic workers on simple first aid measures that they need to know if they're left with a child at home, okay? Or if one of you has fainted at home. A story happened a few weeks ago where one of my relatives who had tested positive for COVID had a domestic worker taking care of her. And so the domestic worker became sick. I think she got a heart attack. And the person who saw her getting the heart attack did not know what to do. So the lady was seated, started sweating, started foaming, and died. Yeah? But if the person who saw that happening knew what to do, she would have immediately started chest compressions as you call for help. But many of us don't know what to do, isn't it? You'll just see, nani ameenda tu hivyo, alifaint tu, akaenda. Yeah? Which are things that we need to know. The human resource needs, like we need to know that we are all healthcare workers at home, and we need some knowledge, yeah, on what to do. As a mother, you know, we used to grow up and our mothers were nurses, they were doctors, they were teachers. I don't know if mothers today still do that. You know, mothers would pick, there's this herb, it's called a feta. Is it still there? Yeah, where at a certain time of the month, all the children had to get drops in their nose, and they all sneeze, and for some reason you'd feel much better after, isn't it? Yeah? They knew that if a child has diarrhea at home, this is the herb to use. Do you guys still do that here? Yeah? They knew that majandlum is very effective for some things. There's a certain point of the year where they'll just put majandlum in water and drink. Yeah? Why? Because mothers identified that they are actually part of the human resource for health, and you ought to identify, you know, what are the things that are around me that can help, and I need to take personal responsibility for the health of the people in my home. As you go to a doctor, the responsibility of healthcare does not lie with the doctor or with the nurse. It begins with you from home, preventing disease and managing simple conditions from home, all right? The third thing about systems is the inventory of products. In my house, you'll find there are products that don't miss. And these are things that, you know, in a house, I can't stay without baobab powder, especially during COVID periods, because I need high levels of vitamin C, all right? So what products must be there at home? So every house needs to have a list of products that should never miss, and if possible, go a further step and create a menu of a house on this day. You know, we always eat this. We always drink a certain drug at a certain point. Like in my mother's house, we knew that in the evenings, you'd either be taking mwarubaini, or you'd be taking dwele, or a concoction of ginger and garlic. There was always concoctions, and we all knew how to make them because over time it had been operationalized, as we are going to see in the fourth thing in health systems, that we need operations. The inventory of products will help. Some of you have a problem sending your husbands to shop because they don't even know what rice to buy. Mothers, is that a problem some of you face? They go to the supermarket, then they call you, ninunue maziwa gani? Ama ninunue tishu gani? It means they are not aware of the inventory of products in the home. What product do you usually use? What soap do you usually use and why? I've made it a habit that there is a certain lotion I buy. If he goes to the supermarket, I ensure he buys the same and he understands why we are using that lotion and not any other lotion. Yeah? So that the burden of shopping does not just lie with you, the mother, or with someone else. Everyone is aware that we always buy our products from here. And if you're looking for a good product, this is how to look for it. Yeah? And these products should be shared even with your children. That as a child goes into the market, they should be able to tell a good kitungu from a bad kitungu. They should be able to know that this is where you buy good celery from, or cabbage or something, because the inventory of products has been shared and the reasoning behind the inventory. Now, the inventory also helps to prevent stockouts. Yeah? Stockouts in a home could be very bad. For example, you'll find there are things that are needed for emergency in homes. For example, turmeric powder, cayenne pepper. These are important for inflammatory conditions. Someone has pain, sudden pain or a sudden heart attack. Cayenne powder simply put under the tongue helps in terms of thinning blood, okay, and preventing, further pain. But if you don't have that in your house, if it's not in your inventory of products, you won't even think of buying it. Yeah? There is a book we wrote, or it's a book we filled when we were getting married. And this book has a whole list of shopping things that we thought would be needed. I keep going back to it. I think there are a few things that every time I need to keep updating. But that inventory has helped me over time. I can go shop almost on autopilot. But the first time when I was starting, I had to sit down and write everything. Everything from what do I think this house needs. Yeah? Then the other thing is operations. Operations is the day-to-day running of a home. And you'll find in today's day and age, most parents are not involved in the day-to-day running of the home. They wake up and the only thing they know is work. So who is usually involved in the operations? Who is involved in the operations most of the time? The house help, isn't it? Or the domestic manager. And this is where you ought to empower the person who is involved in the operations to be able to reproduce what you can to your extent or even better. And that's why a good manager or a good leader will always hire someone who is, slightly better than they are, okay? If you cook chapatis well, try looking for someone who can do them a notch higher, all right? If you clean very well, try and empower the person who's going to be cleaning every day to do it a notch higher than you, all right? And knowing when to fire, because a lot of the times our operations are curtailed because we don't know, when to fire. You have someone in the house who is not helping you, and it's causing your health to go down. I'll give you an example. Because of my job, sometimes I am not at home, and so I have to get someone to come and help with watering of the farm and cleaning when I'm not at home. So recently, I got someone about 3 months ago, and this person was not, so clean. I would enter the house, and I get to the house sometimes a little late. And at that time, I just want to enter the house and ensure my food is set and everything is set. So I enter the kitchen, and sometimes you look at how the sufurias have been cleaned. Now you start wondering, do I repeat cleaning the sufurias, or do I start cooking? Do I clean the house again? Do I water the farm? Yeah. If you have someone like that, you may want to consider, is this person really helping me? And at that point, you make decisions and say, okay, I'm sorry, it was good doing business with you. but I need to maintain my health because, when you start getting mental stress like that, chances are when I would get home, I would wash the sufurias and say, honey, leo tukule fruit tulale. But for how long can you survive on just fruit, isn't it? Whose health is suffering? Our health, isn't it? Yeah? So you ought to make decisions on operations because this is where many people fail. You are not able to reproduce the same thing repeatedly. Like many of you are going to make New Year resolutions. As you start, you're going to start very, very well. The first day you will eat healthy, but give it a few weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you go back to your old habits because the issue usually fails at operations. Are you able to keep repeating the same thing, the same healthy habits? And this is where you need help. You need to, empower everyone in the house. You'll find there is a child who is good at cleaning, give them that job. There is a child who is good at, at watering or of taking care of the farm. Let them take that as their consistent job. Yeah. Operations require you to delegate duties as much as possible. And here I'm going to ask mothers to feel free to delegate even to your husband. You'll find a lot of mothers coming late to church. They are stressed. They have not done so many things. And the husband is seated comfortably somewhere watching news, waiting for the food to be brought from a mother who is struggling with a 2-year-old baby, with a 3-year-old, with a 5-year-old. And this mother has to do everything, from changing diapers to feeding the baby to bringing food to the table. And I like telling mothers, the only thing you have to do is ask. The only thing you have to do is what? Ask. And speak clearly. And don't be afraid of repeating. I don't mean nag. Don't be afraid of repeating, because sometimes you will ask the guy, please nisaidie kuchange diaper yake. He ataskia. Go closer and say, today there's 1, 2, 3 things to be done. I was thinking we need to arrive to church by 8, all of us. So to help me arrive by 8, please help me prepare the baby as I prepare the food. Okay? A lot of mothers won't ask. They'll sit back and say, unajua in our culture, hiyo si kazi ya nani? Hiyo si kazi ya mwanaume, si ndio? There are even men who think like that, right? They're there. Hiyo si kazi ya? But the day you will lose your wife, you will appreciate that I wish I helped her so that disease doesn't take her down, isn't it? It doesn't take much to just help in the operations of a home. And everyone is responsible in the operations of a home. I'm nearing the end. The 5th thing is health intelligence. Now here I'm looking on a knowledge of anatomy and physiology. Everyone actually needs a knowledge of how their body works. From a young age, from the time a child can talk, they should start being taught their body parts, what their body parts do. Yeah? Everyone needs some health intelligence to know that, at this point, I don't think I am feeling well. Especially men. Men can ignore symptoms for a very long time. They'll be getting a headache or, feeling some chest pain, but they're ignoring. Yeah? And you'll find the problem usually is just health intelligence, to be aware that, if this thing is like this, if I'm having, for example, I had a recent story. This is a man who had kept quiet for a very long time. So this guy is having blood in his stool. And he's just quiet. He's thinking, ni normal. But blood in stool, is that normal? It's not normal, isn't it? Yeah? So it got so bad until now, by the time he's coming to hospital, he has a mass in his abdomen. What do you think that is? Some form of cancer, isn't it? But if he came early, at the point where he's noticing blood in his stool, and we diagnose it early, you'll find some of these things are treatable. It could be just a bleeding ulcer, which we need to reverse, but the guy keeps quiet with it. Yeah? Someone keeps being treated for, ulcers. He's always on H. pylori kit. Is that normal? It's not normal, isn't it? Yeah? But some of you keep going to the chemist all the time. Ulcers imerudi tena. Nipe ile dawa ya kawaida. I just lost a patient about 2 weeks ago to that. This is an old man. And this patient would just keep taking, dialysis. By the time he's coming to hospital, he has liver failure, he had ascites, all organs were failing, and there was really nothing we could do. And this is where I think I blame health intelligence. Where do we get intelligence? From sessions like this, from books. The Adventist Church is not devoid of books on healthcare. Read the books of Ellen White cover to cover. They'll give you basic knowledge that everyone needs to take care of their health. Yeah? And today we are living in the information age. YouTube, all right? YouTube has so much information on your health, even on just COVID itself. Yeah? Some of you, how many of us think COVID exists? COVID exists? It exists. Okay, how many of us think it doesn't? Anyway, I'll give you my story with COVID at the end of this as I finish. Now, the other thing we need is infrastructure. Now, healthcare always relies on infrastructure, even from home. And what do I mean by infrastructure? I'm sure he went through, how the building looks like. When you're building your house, it's a health decision. It's not just, I need a house, yeah? How well is that house ventilated, yeah? Does air flow through? Does sunlight get into that house? Does it have space, to just keep enough stuff in there? How often is it cleaned, yeah? So everything you buy, even in terms of vehicles and infrastructure for the home, has an impact in terms of healthcare. Sometimes some of us are suffering back pain, but the issue is just the car seat. The car seat is uncomfortable. You're driving long distances with it. You're always seated. You don't exercise. Or your seat at work is not one that supports your back. Okay? The other infrastructure is equipment in the home that makes healthcare decisions easily followable. For example, having a blender can make it easy for you to blend juices, smoothies, vegetables, okay? But if you don't have it and a doctor tells you, now I need you to increase your vegetable or raw vegetable intake and fruit juice intake, how are you going to do that? Isn't it? Yeah? So you must look for infrastructure that makes operations easy, okay? And infrastructure that makes healthcare decisions easier, yeah? So for example, you'll find, a busy mother who has all these things to their back. You'll find a good husband will say, okay, nimeona ume struggle sana, I think we can afford a washing machine so that you stop concentrating on washing and you have a bit of more time to read, isn't it? Most fathers don't think like that. Yeah? Some people will say, my wife is so lazy, ati anataka washing machine. See, that's what some fathers will say. But it's infrastructure that is helping in the operations of the home. It's cutting down time that is spent on one duty and helping the mother to do much more. Okay? Does that make sense? All right? Yeah? When it comes to cooking, you may want to invest in an oven because you'll find some people prefer frying food. Now compare frying food to having an oven where you can still make the same tasty food, but without fat, isn't it? But if a lady does not have an oven, what option do they have? Frying, isn't it? If they don't have an oven or a grill where they can grill, let me give you an example with what people like. Most people here still take chicken, isn't it? Yeah? Fried chicken is sweet, right? Is it? It is, yeah? But did you know, if you had a grill or an oven, you can still get the same quality of taste without necessarily using fat, but it's grilled and you get the same taste, right? You've not fried it, but it has been put in an oven. Now, someone who does not have an oven or a grill, where else do you expect them to give you the same taste? The only option they have is to fry it, right? Is the fat good? Is the fat good? No, yeah? So you keep doing that repeatedly over many years, and people end up with a lot of disease just because somebody did not think of infrastructure. And in the home, really, you don't have to think of big ovens. You know you can make an oven using makaa, right? There are charcoal ovens. There are gas ovens. Okay? I use a gas oven because I can't afford to pay the electricity bills if I was to use an electric oven. Okay? So it's just about thinking of what infrastructure do I need. Today there are air fryers where you fry food but with air. No oil. It still tastes, as good. Yeah? So the infrastructure of the home, you need to sit down and see what equipment is there that can help me cook food in a healthier way, that can help me reduce work. There are men who even refuse to buy mops in their house. Ati mop ni lazy sana. I don't know if they are here, but I know men who, for them to feel that the house has been mopped, they have to see the woman bending. Right? Sindio? Are they there? Have you seen men like that? They have to see their women bending. Now ask yourself, this woman who is always bending in the farm, bending to mop the house, bending to do everything, after 20 years of bending, how can they not be complaining of low back pain? Isn't it? All women, ask women here 40 years and above, all of them, if I start doing a statistic here, many of them will start complaining of what? Low back pain. Yeah? Where does it come from? If someone at the beginning would have just thought that I can actually make this work easier, I can buy a mop, it still does the same. It still does the same thing. Okay? And that is what infrastructure is about. Now the last thing is about health finance. Health finance is a huge part of healthcare. And you'll experience it when you get sick. Quite recently, I had a patient coming in. This patient was diabetic, hypertensive, and had a ruptured aneurysm. What that is an artery has burst in their brain. Okay? So this guy was bleeding from their brain and needed urgent surgery. And unfortunately, at the hospital where he presented, that surgery could not be done. And he was referred to a private facility where that surgery needed to be done. Now, in the private facility asked him for 1 million shillings before they could touch him. Yet this is someone who is waiting for death any minutes from now. So what do you think will happen or happens to these patients? Because this is the same repeated story. What happens? Just dies, isn't it? Why? Not because there was nothing that could be done, but because of lack of money. Now let me take a step backward. What led to his diabetes and to his hypertension, which has probably led to the hemorrhage in his head? A lifestyle of not wanting to spend on healthcare until finally he has developed the diabetes, he has developed the hypertension, which has led him to have a rupture in his head. And now he's bleeding from something we call a subarachnoid hemorrhage and an aneurysm. Yeah? Now, if this guy was given 20 years to go back to his life and decide that, I want to reduce all the risk factors for hypertension, I will spend more money eating healthy. I will spend more money going to the gym and exercising. I will spend more money ensuring that my house has the correct infrastructure. Perhaps, I was just thinking, perhaps today he wouldn't have to feel the pressure of, I need 1 million shillings to save my life. And it's not that the surgery would guarantee that his life is going to be saved. Do you understand? So what am I trying to say? Spending money in prevention is always cheaper eventually than spending money on managing the condition. All right? If you look at your everyday money expenditure as a decision for healthcare, eventually, even let's say perhaps you get sick, you will find whatever you eventually spend if you've been living a healthy lifestyle before ends up being much lower than what you would have spent if you're living a reckless life before. So put money in prevention, all right? Put money where? In prevention, because healthcare is very, very expensive. A lot of the times you think, I'm covered, I have insurance, yeah? And insurance will only cover you up to a certain extent. At the beginning of this year, people who got COVID, like myself, faced really huge financial challenges because most insurances don't cover pandemics, okay? But if you're living a healthy lifestyle and God willing you didn't get very sick, you'll find it's very cheap to manage it when you have a healthy body. Okay? So putting money in prevention is eventually always cheaper. But then also we are living in the world and you can't ignore the fact that we can get sick despite you living a healthy lifestyle, isn't it? So what should I do when I get sick? How many of us have NHIF here? NHIF? Let me see the hands. All right, I'm seeing a few. Okay, good. Put your hands down. Now, healthcare insurance, even if it's not the best of insurance, it may not be, the best insurance that we would want for our country, but you will find it goes a long way if you can save for your health. If you can just put 500 bob there every month, and one time when you need it, you'll find, a CT scan costing 18,000 or 12,000 has been paid for by the 500 you've been paying every single month, isn't it? Yeah? A lot of people face frustration and complications simply because they were thinking, they didn't know that they can get sick. That's what I imagine. And then it gets to a point where they need sudden help. They don't have NHIF. They don't have health insurance. Their families as well can't manage to raise the funds. So what options are they left with? Death, isn't it? Yeah? But if when you are healthy, you can make a contribution to an NHIF fund, even for your old parents, it helps to cover a lot of financial burdens that we face as we deal with our healthcare conditions. And it's not just NHIF. Some of us can afford private insurance, yeah? Some of us can afford to save for our health in a separate account, yeah? Because as we live on this earth, we will get sick. Even the prophet herself got sick. She died after getting a hip fracture. Ellen White. Okay? Yeah? Everyone, eventually, because we are in a sinful world, you must think of the possibility of, what if I get sick? How will I finance it? And start making the investment for health right now. So when it comes to finances, I admonish you to, one, spend more money on preventive health care. Number two, save for your health care. Okay? And the saving options I have given is the public insurance scheme. The one we have in Kenya is NHIF. If you can afford private insurance, much better. If you can save simply in an account where this account is for all our health needs, the better. And I ask ourselves, if you can save to buy a car, you can save to build a home, why not save for that rainy day when you are unwell, isn't it? Yeah? And we don't think about it. Some of us think because we are living righteousness by garlic or righteousness by charcoal, then no disease will ever catch us. You've seen those people who live by righteousness by garlic. Everything has garlic. They wake up, take garlic. Disease is with us, okay? And so long as it's with us, we must look ahead and plan ahead, not in fear of the disease, but as wise people, knowing that a time will come when I will need to pay for something, isn't it? Yeah? So that's it when it comes to health finance. And I'll show you how, some of these principles I've shared with you applied. At the beginning of the year, I work in a COVID center. And when COVID began, we dealt with, a lot of cases. And along the path, I also got COVID. I know some people are thinking, I have never seen someone with COVID. I am one of them. I got COVID. If you're looking for someone who got COVID, I am here. Okay? And what symptoms have you heard about COVID? What symptoms do you know are there about COVID? Mm-hmm. Shortness of breath. Fever. Mm-hmm. What else? Chest pain. Mm-hmm. Headaches. Dry cough. Loss of smell and taste. Fatigue, yes. Chills. All right, there is more. So for myself, just before the diagnosis, because of our work, we get tested almost on a weekly basis. And I think the previous week, I I did not want to go for the testing because the testing can be a little irritating on your nose. So the previous week, I had been feeling very tired, and somehow I just kept adding salt to my food. Yeah. A few of my family members had tested positive, and so when I began adding salt and I was feeling really tired, I just thought I've done too many nights. I have not slept because I was also reading for an exam. I immediately knew it was COVID, and I began doing things to, to revert it. I was on supplements, and by the time I was testing positive, my symptoms had disappeared. But what I've noticed about COVID is a lot of the times we don't take it seriously. We don't know all the symptoms. I know what you've been told is that people present with fever. Not everyone presents with fever. In fact, a majority of the patients I've seen don't even have the fever. Some people will have sore throat. Some people will have chest pain, cough. Others have weird symptoms like diarrhea, a chest pain, or sudden heart attack. I was telling him, I've dealt with a 14-year-old who presented with a clot in his chest. 14, okay? A 22-year-old who presented with stroke, and it's simply COVID, yeah? With blood clots, yeah? So there are other symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, skin rashes, diabetes, yeah? Sudden, sugar has just gone up, yeah? So those are some of the symptoms we experience more oftenly. Of course, the general public will have a sore throat, cough, and things like that. So what should we do? In addition to following the guidelines that we have been given, I would propose that a healthy lifestyle, which I think was helpful for me. When I got COVID, we started steaming. I would steam with eucalyptus on a daily basis. I was on supplements, and supplements are supposed to just be that, yeah? I was on vitamin C, oregano oil, thyme, what else? There's something called grapeseed, which are things I know are not easily accessible. So some of you are going to ask me, what should I do? There are things that are easily accessible in this place. There is a lot of pineapples in this place, which is high in vitamin C. There is pawpaw. There is watermelon. Baobab powder can be brought here because baobab powder is easily available in the country. Lemongrass is majan loom. You boil it and take it with water, not with majan. Do you hear me? You can take lemongrass with lemon and just drink it. Though lemongrass is not safe in pregnancy, so you'd want to avoid it in pregnancy. But if you're not pregnant, lemongrass is also a very good drug, especially if you're having upper respiratory tract symptoms, okay? Yeah. What else were we doing? Honey, zinc, exercise. Yes, we were exercising on a daily basis. I was going out to jog. I went out to the farm more often when I was sick. And then managing your mindset during isolation, because some of you will get COVID. COVID right now is everywhere. But how you manage your mindset in the periods of isolation determines how sick you get and how fast you're going to recover, okay? It's not the end of the world. Get busy. For me, being busy meant I was going to the farm, I was out jogging, I was reading books, yeah? But you don't want to add mental stress to COVID. It makes healing a lot slower. And I think I have exhausted my time, so I'll pause here and invite Andrew in case he'll give me time for questions, then I will pick your questions after.
Good morning, everyone. We really thank God for this particular session that is ongoing, and I want to appreciate the approach that has been given to health. I believe many in attendance can also confirm that this approach is so vast, and I just came up front here to re-echo that is what the church has been insisting that we do. A number of times when people hear about health, especially from this end of the world, what comes to our mind is that we are going to talk about food through. Is that true? Hello? Is that true? Yeah, so as a church, I love that approach that we have been given. And for those who have been consistent in attending health seminars that we have for the church, last year we said we have basic four principles in our philosophy. Number one, we talked about temperance. That is very key. Number two, we said inspiration. We believe that the Bible is the book that gives us the true foundation of true science. Are we together? Yes, and also we said that we so much encourage things which are evidence-based. In this era where we are having a lot of information everywhere, sometimes people just go to Wikipedia, they pick anything, they run with it, and bring it to the church. And now we want to consume that without any reference. I mean, we can't even justify. And in the process, we have caused more damage than good. And so, Dr. allow me to say thank you for that type of sharing. And finally, there is this bit that is also coming out so clearly about complementing what our partners are doing at home. Support, that is relationships, is also very key. Remember that as health still stands, the definition, I believe, has not been altered. That it is not only tackling disease or infirmity, but there are those other key components where we talk about social, mental, physical, and even spiritual. So the approach we have had is quite good. My essence of coming, as we have agreed with Brother Andrew, is that probably if one may be having a question as a follow-up on what has just been presented, then you can raise it, and then it will be responded to. Then we will bring this particular session to an end before we can usher the next program. That's why I've come. Yes. She talked, I know there were certain terminologies which were maybe just foreign in the ears because of the nature of the constitution of the people who are attending. Like when we talk of somebody who's had a heart attack, or somebody has just collapsed for whatever reason, a baby is choking, what is it that they can do, those maneuvers, or probably the CPR. Somebody may need, if you could just pick one and give an illustration, that which is common at home, or a foreign body in the ear of a child or in the nose, what can we do? I think those are the basics that we need to know as a church, so that even as we are planning to get somebody to the hospital, but we will have attended to the very basics first, so that life can be preserved. If you can say something, thank you.
All right. So on, I think I'll pick one that's easy to illustrate. For example, a choking baby. A child has started choking, and you are noticing that they start choking. What's the first thing you see? What's the first thing you see? Shortness of breath, or they can cough, yeah, or but there's this sign. Let me just illustrate. There's this sign. So this is the first sign that you are able to tell that an adult or a child is choking. They're trying to get something off. Huh? Yeah. Okay. So now, the first thing you do, if it's an adult, yeah, an adult, you want to go around them. Maybe you can come.
The adult choking, Rabuon.
Okay. You see my hands? I'll just go around them in their stomach, yeah? Now put it, right here, and do compressions quite hard. I won't do it on him, but you push it quite in, yeah? With support, yeah? You jerk until the thing, comes out. That's for the adult. But for a child, a baby, you want to look at them, and we hold them using their cheek, okay? And sometimes turn them upside down, and we do back thrust, yeah? Right here. Pat them on the back, but the child is like this. This is their head. You hold them like this with their cheek, turn them like this, then you thrust like this 3 times, turn the baby forward. If the baby is still choking, turn the baby again and do back thrust. Now there are chances that in that process that sometimes you'll find a baby becomes unconscious, which means, either the object has been dislodged or it's gone to the wrong place. What do? Turn the baby over and you start doing something we call chest compressions, which I may not be able to illustrate here unless I have, like a dummy doll, for me to illustrate. But those are simple things, and I have offered that I always come to Migori. The next time I'm in Migori, you can come. We just train on how to deal with, emergencies at home. Yeah.
Maybe let me not dominate. Can I also give room for one or two members to ask, maybe for clarity? Because there is something also that I think should come out clearly. Because we were talking about enhancing or lightening the burden of the wife by bringing things that will see that works. We have a lot of, should I call them myths and misconceptions about these equipments we procure from the supermarkets. What have we to say? Something like, what do we call this? Pressure cooker. Are we there? People talk about fridge, and we have a lot of things. There is this time that a friend visited somebody, and there was a fridge in the house, and he had to pass through the kitchen, so because the other side was locked. So as he was passing, he saw the fridge, and getting to the sitting room, the guy could not even sit down. All he said is that you are eating corpses. I would want that to be really addressed, because I think there is a way we package our information that even that which ought to be good becomes detestable. Is that true? Yes, so can we have some clarity? I said health message for the church is evidence-based. It's things that we can reproduce elsewhere.
All right. So when it comes to equipment, I know, especially in the Adventist church, I call it fanaticism, where some people think that it is almost sinful to have certain equipment. For them, laboring excessively is equivalent to holiness. Okay? So, and that's where you'll find some people, when they come to owning a fridge, they'll think, no food from the fridge should not be eaten. It is unhealthy. Is it? Is it? What do you think? What do you think?
Thank you. Personally, I know it's healthy food.
You?
I know it's healthy food. Food from the fridge is a healthy food. It's only that in our church, like you are saying, we have health missionaries who will always tell you that using a microwave is not right, using a deep freezer is not right. But with the little science on food that I have, all this food is healthy.
Okay. Thank you for that response. Now, what I would have to say about fridges, for example, and we'd have to go through all the equipment so that you identify what are the dangers of this equipment and how should we use it. You'll find some people storing food in the fridge for a very long time, or storing food in the fridge using the wrong containers, okay? Because there's containers that are supposed to go into the fridge, yeah? There are containers where if you put sufurias in the fridge for a long time, it eventually sometimes affects how certain fridges work, okay? So many times we've not taken time to study how should this equipment be used, okay? And sometimes we are lazy. Having a fridge is not equivalent to laziness, where you store food in the fridge for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then that's when you come to eat it, okay? So it's about the use of the equipment and understanding the dangers. For example, if you're using a microwave, there are equipment or certain materials that shouldn't be used in a microwave. And you put it in a microwave, you start ingesting some things that are not, they're going to give you cancer, So we need to study how should each equipment be used, what's the appropriate use of this equipment to lighten your burden and not to add you, more burden.
Yes, that one. And try to be concise. Yeah, thank you.
Now, thank you. Now, about the refrigerator, I think there are times that some of us, the way we use it, like I want to keep my meat inside there, beef or whatever, or fish, either I will take that fish, after cleaning it well, I boil it in salted water. Then after it has cooled to the room temperature, then I place it inside. Because if you place it inside while it is still hot, it will also lead to food poisoning. Now, and then, like you said, there are containers we are supposed to use for keeping food, and also the length of time that we use for keeping that food inside there. And there are also some foods or some fruits that we are not supposed to put inside the refrigerators, because either they spoil the refrigerator or they create an enzyme inside the food while it is immediately it's out of the refrigerator. Now, apart from that, I would like to ask a question on, there is this, you talked about ginger now and charcoal. Now, there is this use of cayenne pepper and black pepper. Is it having any effect? Now, and is it, or maybe positive or negative?
All right. I'll answer that briefly. Thank you for your feedback on the fridge. I agree with you 100%. Now, on every other thing that we use, especially the additives, I would want to say that we need to use them with knowledge, and that's why we had health intelligence coming up. For example, when you're using cayenne, for what condition are you using it for? At what dose? Okay? Because cayenne in itself is a blood thinner. It's also potentially very irritating to the abdomen, okay? So if you are a patient already on a blood thinner like warfarin, rivaroxaban, Clexane, this is not someone I'm going to advise to continuously use cayenne pepper in their food, because you're consistently thinning the blood and you are likely going to bleed at some point, okay? If you're using cayenne and black pepper for, abdomen issues or to reduce pain, at what dose, okay? And then those are the things that a lot of the times medical missionaries, we don't spend time to actually tell you, that if I'm using cayenne, there is a dosage of cayenne I use for different conditions, okay? There is a period of time I take it for. If I'm using turmeric, there is an amount that I need to measure. For example, right now, I'm using 400 milligrams of oregano to boost my immunity. Now, if you go to the supermarket, you have oregano as a powder, as a spice, okay? But you'll need a doctor to come and tell you, use this amount of oregano for this condition. If you're using it daily, then it doesn't really matter, okay? Same to ginger and garlic, yeah? Some of us have taken in too much. It's too much garlic. Some people will tell you just 2 cloves, but your clove inatoshana aje. Si kuna garlic zenye ni ndogo ndogo, kuna zingine ni kubwa kubwa. Si ndio? So your clove inatoshana aje, okay? So you need to be able to measure and discuss with someone, and this is where I think many doctors need to get involved in medical missionary work, so that you're able to know that, garlic, if you mix garlic and this other drug, it actually reduces its potency. If you take grapes or grapeseed with this drug, it reduces its efficiency or it increases its mechanism of action, okay? So I agree with you, those things work. I personally use them, but I feel for every patient, you need to give guidance on what amounts, under what condition, when should they take them. Is it after food? Is it before food? Is it in the morning? Is it at lunchtime? Is it after how many hours should I be taking my cayenne and black pepper? Black pepper is actually very corrosive. So if this is someone who has gastritis and I keep giving them pepper, what am I doing to their? I'm doing, someone who has ulcers and I'm giving them black pepper. It may not, necessarily help if it's being taken in very high amounts, okay? So I'd answer that question that it depends with the person who's taking, what condition, for what condition, and for what duration.